Hey, it's Keith from Outlaw Speed Shop, and welcome to the Four Horsemen build for February. This is a mod rod. You pretty much know my feelings on this casting, but I am kind of growing to love it. It's kind of like a ugly little child that you have to, nurture into something that might be okay. If you want to follow along, you can always build with us. Here's a list of all the builds and the themes. This theme is Convertible. If you like the content, make sure you subscribe and don't forget to ring the bell to get notified of all future videos. So I'd built a mod rod convertible probably about 6 months ago. You can go back in the channel and find it. There's a few things that really kind of bother me about this. One being those wings, the bat wings on the side of the frame, and the fact that it's a 6-cylinder with 2 exhausts, and the roof. Kind of looks like a Cylon. So worked out good because we're turning this into a convertible. Anyways, so I took great pleasure in cutting the roof off, and I used my jeweler's saw for that. And a lot of times I'll use a cutoff wheel. In this case, I was kind of looking for a little bit more precision. I have no problem with the cutoff wheel most times, because even if I usually cut a little high and then I grind smooth. So, but in this case, worked out pretty good. So what I'm trying to do now is I want to cut the nose off as well. So I'm marking off where I plan to cut this. And I'm going to, again, I'm trying to go a little bit different. On the last one I did, I left the nose and just pretty much cut off the passenger side exhaust because it didn't belong on there. Though this time I figured I'd take it the extra mile and cut the nose off. I am going to reuse the radiator grill shell, not the actual center of it, but the actual shell. So after my cuts, and I'm pretty close to where I think I need to be, I have a various assortment of files, and I'm just trying to get the roof line pretty much flat where I want it. So here you can start to see it's kind of coming together. I'm still, just fitting. The problem is when you cut the roof off, you're cutting the back tab off. So you have to get a little creative on how you mount this, but that's not that big of a deal. You're not going to be screwing it back together, that's for sure. So now I'm going to mark off where the wings are. I call them bat wings. I'll just grind that down nice and smooth and then file it and sand it. And now it looks like real frame rails. So again, I'm still fitting, making sure, all my gaps are good. Everything I'm supposed to have to make it fit right is there. I don't know how many times I've done a project, and as many times as I fit, I go to put it together and it still doesn't fit right. So you're best off taking your time and making sure you got it right. So the hardest part about this particular build was just the fitment of what I was going to use. So I wanted to go completely different. I'm using a Toyota twin cam motor from Benchworks Toys, and this is completely out of my element. I had to look up what it was. I knew it was a turbo motor thingy. It's not a V8 with carburetors or a blower. It's way out of my realm. So I know it had a turbo on it, and I wasn't sure what it was from. And then I've got some wheels that I picked up from Rogue Syndicate Parts. Like a wire wheel. And if you haven't checked out his website, make sure you check him out. He's got a ton of stuff on there. And the wheels are really, really cool. So pretty much right now, all I'm trying to do is fit the wheels. You can see how it's going to roll. I'm not changing the stance. I'm putting them back in the same spot. So after stripping it with the citrus strip, which pretty much made short work of this. Most of the time I leave it in overnight anyways, just because I'm not in a rush. But as usual, I'll take my wire wheel attachment for my Dremel tool, clean off all the residue, make sure there's no paint in the door, any kind of body lines or anything like that. There wasn't that much. So there's a gap, obviously, where the roof was. So I'm just going to use a thin piece of styrene to kind of fill in that that space and make it look like it's supposed to be there. Otherwise, it's just too far back towards the rear end. So, and I did this on my last one as well. So this wasn't anything new that I've done in the past. So for the most part, it's pretty simple. I just trim a little large, and you just got to notch out the corners just a little bit to get it to sit in. This is awkward because trying to fit it in there and show it on the camera and work with my hands and see was a little challenging. So, but you can pretty much get the gist of what I'm trying to do there. Once it's in there good, I'll glue it from underneath just to make sure I've got a good fit. I'm not overly concerned because I'm going to be using a couple different putties. I'm using the Tamiya filler putty. It goes on okay, nothing fantastic, but it's good for a first coat. And what it'll do is it'll help fill in the little cracks pretty much all the way around, just to make sure I've got a nice, as smooth as possible surface to work with. And after it dries, I'll sand it, and it sands real good. It takes a little while to dry, but for the most part, I'm just hitting it with some 400, and then I'll go back over it with 800, and then hit it with 1000, just to kind of get a rough idea where I'm at. Then I'll prime it just to. A lot of times, primer will help bring out any imperfections, so you can see what you're working with, and it just makes it easier to see what you missed, and do it with every intention of priming it again, because it's obviously you're going to sand the hell out of it, and by the time you're done, there won't be any primer left. So once I get it to the point where I think it's smooth enough, I'm using automotive glazing putty, and I'm just going to put a thin, well, it doesn't look thin, but it'll be thin, thin coat of that on. That fills out the last of the imperfections before primer, just to make sure I got everything that I could possibly get. I got lucky this time. I pretty much got it right the first time. And this stuff I'm just putting on with a stick of styrene. I just cut a small strip. It's flexible. You can pretty much use anything. I've used my finger before to put on that. Be more specific. So now I'm trying to, I built up the motor base a little bit. I added a couple pieces of styrene just to lift the motor up a little bit to get it to where I wanted. Nothing fantastic. I'm not even, like I said, I know nothing about these motors, nor do I care to. I just thought it looked cool, and on a coolness scale, that's what I was after. And overall, I think it's going to fit really good at this point. So I prime the body, and then I'll obviously go back and paint the chassis and the motor black. So the one other thing that kind of doesn't really bother me about this casting is just the back, the straps. So what I'm doing is I got a sanding disc on the back of my Dremel tool, so I'm going to sand off the straps. I guess they're supposed to be like a luggage rack, container, bag thing. So anyways, I'm going to hit that. I'm going to knock it down a little bit. The top's a little thicker. That's where the buckles are, so I'm going to file that down just to get it close. And then that sanding disc, I believe it's a 220 sanding disc. It comes in a sorted pack, 220, 180, 220, and I'm not sure the other one. So once the interior is primed, I'm pretty much just going to go around and black out what I think is going to show. Then I started painting the motor and everything else. I got this wheel paint holder from Blue Meanie TSI Customs. He had sent it to me a while ago. I do use it all the time. So I'm going to put the axles, I stick them in the little holes, and I put the wheels on. It gives me a great way to paint wheels. It just comes in really handy. So I prime them first with a white primer, because that's all I had. But I'm putting a burnt iron on it. I'm kind of going with a subdued look on this. I'm not going super crazy with it as far as the appearance. I will clear coat those lightly, just to get them to pop a little bit. And I'm putting a brown leather color on the seats. I'll trim out the interior, make sure everything's painted and as detailed as I possibly can, because unlike most cars, you're definitely going to see this being an open convertible. So this was a fun project. I like challenges like this because it's I've already done one, so it was a challenge to make it different. And B, I like challenges like this with the Four Horsemen because it gives you an opportunity to see what other people do. with the same casting. And I know sometimes it gets boring because you're watching like 18 videos of the same shit, but overall, everybody's take on it's pretty cool. So here, what I'm going to do is the radiator came with the car, with the motor, with the Toyota. So I just wanted a grill shell to complete the front end, and I just cleaned out the actual radiator part. These are all the pieces, parts, all laid out. I did clear coat the body and the wheels, but overall, I think it came out really good. I'm kind of digging the Toyota motor. I just think it's different. It adds something. This is what I ended up with. I actually really, really like this. It rolls great. The Rogue Syndicate wheels mixed with the Benchworks motor really makes this different. I don't think I've seen a mod rod with a non-V8 or straight 6 in it. So to be able to do something just slightly different was kind of cool. So I got a couple shots here. I got a bunch of pictures at the end. Make sure you check out all the Four Horsemen builds and anybody else who's participating. I appreciate it. I will catch you on the next one.